Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something that's a bit of a struggle for many. Working night shifts. You know, when your body thinks it's time to sleep and your boss thinks it's time for you to work. Yeah, that lovely little battle. But don't worry, we've got you covered. In this video, we'll uncover 15 key strategies to protect your health while surviving the night shift grind. From mastering your internal clock and sneaky ways to boost your energy, to foolproof sleep hacks, and even staying sane amidst the isolation. Trust me, you'll be equipped to handle it all. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time below so I can see what time zone warriors are watching tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Night shift. Hey there, night owl. You've probably spent your fair share of late nights at work, staring at the clock, waiting for the hours to crawl by. And let's face it, working night shifts isn't exactly a walk in the park, is it? The idea of surviving the graveyard shift while staying healthy is like trying to juggle flaming torches. It's tricky, and sometimes you worry, but trust me, you're not alone in this. Night shift work dates back to ancient civilizations. In fact, the Romans were the first to implement organized night shifts. You can thank them for the whole night watch idea. In a way, you're carrying on a proud tradition of burnin'. But seriously, there's a catch. Working at night messes with your health in ways you probably didn't sign up for. Researchers have shown that night shifts can disrupt your circadian rhythm, the body's natural sleep-wake cycle. Historians still argue whether this disruption actually leads to long-term health issues or if it's just a temporary inconvenience like that. And here's the kicker. Your body's like, hey, I'm supposed to be asleep, while you're like, I'm supposed to stay awake. The result? Well, let's just say your health doesn't always win the tug of war. So how do you survive this madness? Let's get into your body's internal clock. Mastering the circadian rhythm. Okay, let's talk about your body's internal clock. You've probably heard about it before. Your circadian rhythm, that fancy term for the body's 24-hour cycle. It's like your body's built-in GPS, telling you when to sleep, eat, and avoid any dramatic drama with your coworkers. Now, if you're working night shifts, this rhythm doesn't exactly cheer you on. In fact, it protests. Imagine your body's little internal orchestra trying to play Beethoven, but someone keeps hitting the wrong notes. Yeah, that's what your circadian rhythm feels like when it's forced to accommodate weird hours. Let's take a moment for a fun historical tidbit. The word circadian comes from the Latin word circa, around, and diem, day. So it literally means around the day. Back in the 1920s, scientists realized this rhythm was a big deal when they observed how plants and animals behave differently during the day and night. For humans, though, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. There's still debate among historians about whether night shift work was even a problem in the pre-industrial age. Did early human beings ever struggle with these rhythms? Or did the rise of artificial lighting and the Industrial Revolution just throw everything off? Historians still argue about that. One thing's clear. Night shifts are an unnatural experience for your body. But hey, you've got to make a living, right? So let's figure out how to handle it without becoming a zombie. Sleep, the night shift worker's secret weapon. Oh, sleep. That sweet, sweet escape. You know, the thing you get maybe once a week? But seriously, sleep is your ultimate weapon when it comes to surviving night shifts. Forget about caffeine for now. Historians still argue whether the rise of coffee drinking in the 17th century had a significant impact on Europe's productivity, or whether it was just a fancy way to look important at court gatherings. Regardless, we now rely on caffeine more than ever. especially when our circadian rhythm is all over the place. So, here's the trick. Sleep when you can. It's not about just lying down for 8 hours. It's about creating an environment that lets you slip into a deeper sleep, no matter how bizarre the time. You've probably spent too many nights fighting the sunlight pouring in through your window, pretending it's still a reasonable hour to sleep. But guess what? If you have blackout curtains, you're already halfway there. And speaking of sleep, remember the ancient Egyptians? They would nap during the day to avoid the intense heat. Pretty clever, right? They were essentially living the modern-day nap dream. But here's the thing about sleep. It's not just a break for your mind. It's your body's chance to repair itself. Get used to strategies that encourage sleep when working nights. Use sleep aids like eye masks or blackout curtains, and keep your room cool and quiet. It's like your personal sleep fortress. It's time to start using these little hacks to get your rest. Because without it, well, you're just a sleep-deprived skeleton trying to make it through another shift. Eating smart. Your midnight fuel. Let's talk about food. Specifically, what you should not eat during a night shift. Sure, a bag of chips and a soda might seem like a good idea at 3 a.m., but trust me, your body is not impressed. You see, food during the night shift isn't just about satisfying hunger. It's about fueling your body to stay alert and balanced. Historically speaking, the concept of midnight snacks dates back to the Industrial Revolution, when factory workers would take breaks to eat at odd hours. But the real kicker is that those workers didn't have the benefit of research on nutrition. Scholars still debate whether meals eaten during the night actually affect metabolism more than meals consumed during the day. While some studies say the body digests food differently during the night, others claim that it's all about what you eat, not when you eat. Now, here's a quirky little tidbit. In the 18th century, sailors would eat hardtack, basically crackers, during long nights at sea. And those crackers were so hard, they could last decades. Let's hope your late-night snack doesn't become a fossil in your body. To keep your energy up during night shifts, go for foods that are high in protein and complex carbs. Keep your metabolism revved up with meals that won't spike your blood sugar. It's all about balance. You don't want to crash by 5 a.m., trust me. So, skip the sugary snacks and keep your mind sharp with healthier options like nuts, fruit, or a good old protein bar. Hydration. Drink your way to better health. Hydration. You've heard it a million times. But here's the thing. When you're working night shifts, dehydration can sneak up on you faster than a cat in a sock. Imagine this. You've been working for hours, surviving on coffee, and by the time you realize you haven't had a glass of water, you're already feeling sluggish. In fact, historians still debate whether the ancient Egyptians were the first to discover the importance of water, or if it was more of a regional discovery. But one thing's certain. Staying hydrated helps keep your brain sharp, which is pretty much essential when you're operating on low sleep and energy. Funny side note, did you know that in ancient Greece, water was considered a sacred element? Maybe they were onto something, because now we all know how important hydration is for keeping your body functioning properly. Without it, you're basically a walking raisin. So, how do you keep hydrated during a night shift? Easy. Drink water regularly. If plain water doesn't appeal, try adding a splash of lemon or cucumber for some extra flavor. And don't forget about electrolytes. Sports drinks can give you that extra boost when you're feeling drained. Stay hydrated, stay alive. Exercise, keeping your body energized. All right, let's talk about exercise. I know what you're thinking. Exercise? During my night shift? Are you serious? But hear me out. Working through the night is exhausting. And if you're not careful, you'll end up feeling like a stiff piece of cardboard by the time your shift is over. Here's the thing. Your body needs movement, especially when you're working night shifts. Even if you're sitting for hours, getting up and moving around for just a few minutes can keep your energy levels from plummeting. Ever notice how you're more likely to feel sluggish after sitting still for too long? That's because your muscles and joints are begging for movement. Historians still debate whether ancient laborers, who often worked long hours in the fields, had better physical stamina due to more natural movements throughout the day, or if modern conveniences have made us lazier over time. And guess what? A bit of light exercise can actually help you stay alert during the night. Remember the early morning joggers you see before you start your shift? They're onto something. Research has shown that light exercise can give you a boost of energy without overtaxing your body. So here's a quirky little tidbit. In ancient Rome, gladiators were among the fittest athletes, working out with heavy training routines. They didn't have fancy gyms or yoga classes, but they certainly knew the importance of movement. Fast forward to today, and while we're not throwing axes or fighting tigers, we can still take a cue from their dedication. Even a short walk, a stretch, or a few bodyweight exercises can help. But don't overdo it. While you want to stay energized, you also don't want to burn yourself out before the shift ends. Keep it light, keep it simple, and let your body thank you later. Napping. The power of 20-minute snoozes. Ah, naps. Who doesn't love them? But when you're working a night shift, naps become more than just a luxury. They're a necessity. You've probably heard it a million times, but let me say it again. A 20-minute nap can be a game changer. This isn't just some lazy talk. Studies show that power naps can boost your alertness and memory, which is especially helpful if you need to stay sharp during long hours. Now, here's a fun historical tidbit. The famous inventor and all-around genius Nikola Tesla reportedly only slept 2 hours a day. Yep, you heard me right. 2 hours. But don't try to replicate his sleeping habits. He was a one-off. Still, Tesla believed in the power of napping. And even though he might have taken it to extremes, there's a lesson here. Short naps, when timed right, can make all the difference. But historians still argue whether napping was a common practice in the ancient world, or if it was just a cultural norm for certain regions. In ancient Greece, for instance, people were known to take siestas, which are essentially extended afternoon naps, to combat the intense heat. Maybe they were onto something? Back to today. If you find yourself nodding off at the desk, don't push through it. Find a quiet spot and take a quick power nap. It won't turn you into a superhero, but it'll definitely recharge your batteries for the rest of the shift. Just keep it to 20 minutes, any longer, and you risk feeling groggy instead of refreshed. Creating the perfect sleep environment. You're trying to get some sleep during the day, but your room might as well be a solar furnace with all that sunlight pouring in. So, how do you make your environment work for you? Simple. You need the ultimate sleep setup. Here's a little historical nugget. In ancient Egypt, people would often sleep on raised platforms, perhaps to avoid the pests and dust of the floor. While that's not exactly our luxury mattress today, it does show how important a comfortable, safe sleeping space was even thousands of years ago. But fast forward to modern times, and the key to creating the perfect sleep environment is all about darkness. You might be tempted to leave your curtains open for a little natural light, but if you're working a night shift, your room should be as dark as possible. Blackout curtains are a lifesaver, and if you don't have those, a sleep mask works wonders. And don't forget the temperature. Your body naturally cools down when it's time to sleep, so setting your room to a cool temperature, around 60 to 67 degrees, average 15-20 degrees, can help you fall asleep faster and get better quality rest. Try out different sleep aids like earplugs or white noise machines to block out distractions. Even something as simple as a fan can create that soothing background hum, making it easier for you to relax. Mental health. Fighting the isolation. Night shifts can feel pretty lonely. You're up when everyone else is asleep, and sometimes it feels like you're the only person left on Earth. But here's the thing. Mental health matters just as much as physical health. When you're working nights, the isolation can affect your mood and emotional state. Historically, the idea of working alone during odd hours isn't a new concept. Sailors during the 16th and 17th centuries often worked in isolation for weeks or months at a time. Imagine how hard it was to maintain your sanity when you were far from home with no internet or 24/7 Netflix. These sailors didn't have mental health resources, and many suffered from cabin fever, a condition that made people feel trapped and anxious. Historians still argue whether this isolation was more severe back then, or if it's simply something we romanticize in retrospect. In today's world, isolation isn't as extreme, but it's still very real for night shift workers. And loneliness can really start to take a toll. What helps? Connecting with others. Whether it's through online communities, a quick text to a friend, or even getting involved in a hobby, staying connected will help fight the isolation. You're not alone, even if it feels like it sometimes. Light and darkness. The effects on your health. Light and darkness, two forces that seem so simple, yet they have a profound effect on your health. And when you're working night shifts, they become your greatest allies and worst enemies. Let's break this down. First, let's talk about light. You're working when the world is dark, and that's already a struggle for your body. Your circadian rhythm, that internal clock we mentioned earlier, is heavily influenced by natural light. This is because light signals to your brain when it's time to wake up and when it's time to sleep. It's a complicated process, but for simplicity's sake, light equals wakefulness, darkness equals sleep. Historians still debate whether artificial lighting had as drastic an impact on sleep patterns during the Industrial Revolution as it does today, especially with the rise of electricity. But one thing's for sure, we're more connected to light than we think. When you're exposed to light at night, your body gets confused. It's like telling your body, hey, time to wake up, even when it should be preparing to rest. That blue light from your phone, your computer screen, or even your workplace lighting can disrupt your sleep and mess with your mood. So, how do you fight back? It's all about creating a dark environment when it's time to sleep, even if the world around you is lit up like a Christmas tree. Blackout curtains, eye masks, or even sleep goggles can be lifesavers. But it's not just about blocking light while you sleep. Let's talk about how light exposure during your shift can actually help you stay alert. We're living in the age of blue light, the light emitted by screens, and, strangely enough, our bodies have adapted to it. For night shift workers, a little exposure to blue light during your shift can actually help keep you awake and alert. The trick is to balance it properly. Too much, and you risk making your circadian rhythm even more confused. Historians argue whether blue light exposure was even considered a factor in pre-modern societies, but I think they would have had a good laugh at the thought of smartphones disrupting human biology. So, while you're trying to adjust to night shifts, control the light around you. Embrace darkness when it's time to sleep, and use strategic light exposure during your shift to stay sharp. Your body might fight it, but with the right strategies, you can be in control of the lights, not the other way around. Stress management. Staying calm. Under pressure. Night shifts come with their own brand of stress. Whether it's the workload piling up, the loneliness creeping in, or simply the fact that your circadian rhythm is totally off-kilter, stress seems to become a constant companion on night shifts. But the good news is, there are ways to manage it, and even turn it into something that doesn't wreck your health. Stress management has been around for centuries, and, historically speaking, stress was handled differently depending on the time and culture. Take the ancient Greeks, for instance. They had something called eustress, positive stress, and distress, negative stress, which means they actually recognized that not all stress was bad. Historians still debate whether the ancient Greeks truly understood stress the way we do today, or if they just liked labeling things in neat little boxes. Either way, they believed that stress could actually motivate and drive individuals to excel. But they also acknowledged that too much of it was harmful. So how do we keep stress from taking over during night shifts? First, start by breathing. Yes, it sounds cliché, but deep, slow breaths can actually reduce the effects of stress on your body. Practicing mindfulness and meditation can also help you stay centered, especially during those long, quiet nights. If you have a minute between tasks, close your eyes, focus on your breathing, and let the world around you fade away for a moment. Another quirky, stress-busting trick is to just laugh. Seriously, laughter can lower stress hormones and give you a little break from the chaos. In ancient Rome, gladiators were known for their humor, using jokes and banter to cope with the immense pressure of the arena. Historians still argue whether gladiators were more afraid of the emperor or their fellow combatants. But it's clear that a good laugh can help people manage stress. Just maybe don't try cracking jokes in the middle of your night shift meeting. Whatever stress management techniques work for you, remember that stress doesn't have to be your enemy. Learn how to use it to your advantage. And when it feels like it's taking over, use those coping mechanisms to regain control. You've got this. Maintaining relationships. The challenge of night shift. Social life. Let's talk about something we don't often address when discussing night shifts. Relationships. The simple truth is that working nights can put a strain on your social life and your relationships, whether it's with your partner, family, or friends. You're up when everyone else is asleep, and the people you care about are left wondering when they'll actually see you. This problem has been around for centuries. The ancient Romans were no strangers to busy schedules, with their soldiers often deployed for months at a time, away from their loved ones. Historians still debate how much those long stretches of time apart affected Roman family life. But it's safe to say that absence didn't exactly make the heart grow fonder back then. So, how do you keep those bonds strong when your schedule is anything but normal? It's all about communication. Make sure to check in with your loved ones even when you're exhausted. A quick message or a call can go a long way in letting them know you care. And when you do have time off, make the most of it. Create rituals or routines that allow you to spend quality time with your family or friends. And here's the fun part. Try to find humor in your situation. Sure, you're working while the world sleeps, but that doesn't mean you can't bond over shared experiences. In the 1800s, sailors used to keep journals to document their lonely nights at sea. And often, these journals became hilarious anecdotes. Historians still argue whether sailors' journals were genuinely funny or just an attempt to cope with their isolation. But either way, it's a good reminder that humor can help keep relationships strong, even in the most trying of times. The long-term impact. What happens after years of night shifts? If you've been working night shifts for a while now, you might be wondering, what does this do to my body in the long run? It's a valid question. The truth is, the long-term effects of night shift work aren't always easy to spot right away, but over time, they can add up. Historically, shift work in some form has existed for centuries, but it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution that it became a widespread issue. Factory workers were often required to work long hours, day or night, in conditions that were less than ideal. Historians still argue whether the rise of factory work in the 19th century contributed to the long-term health problems seen in industrialized nations, or if it was more about social and economic changes. Now, when you work night shifts, the consequences might not be immediate, but they can build up. Sleep deprivation, irregular meal schedules, and stress can all pile up over time, leading to various health issues. Studies have shown that long-term night shift workers are at an increased risk for conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and digestive problems. Historians still debate whether ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians and Romans, had a more physically demanding lifestyle that helped offset the long-term health effects of their irregular work schedules. But don't panic. While night shift work does have risks, you can reduce the negative impacts by taking care of yourself. Prioritize your sleep, manage your stress, and stay physically active. It's all about balancing the short-term sacrifice with the long-term benefits. You've got to take care of your body, or it will remind you, usually in the form of a health scare that's as subtle as a brick to the face. Why night shifts can actually make you smarter. You've probably heard a lot of complaints about working night shifts. The fatigue, the social isolation, the way your brain feels like it's been run over by a truck at 3 a.m. But here's the kicker. Working night shifts might actually make you smarter. It sounds crazy, right? But before you start shaking your head, let me explain. Historically, humans are creatures of adaptation. Think about early humans, living in caves, hunting in the day, and guarding the night. They had to adapt to working odd hours just to survive. Historians still argue whether early humans' ability to adapt to different sleep patterns was a matter of evolutionary necessity or simply good survival instincts. Now, science tells us that when you're forced to stay alert during the night, your brain activates different cognitive processes. Night shift workers often report improved focus and problem-solving abilities during late hours. That's because your brain is constantly adapting to new rhythms and patterns. And while this can be challenging, it also strengthens certain cognitive abilities. Plus, let's face it, your brain gets bored with the same old, so it loves a good challenge. Here's a quirky historical tidbit. During the 19th century, people didn't have the luxury of artificial lighting like we do now, so they often had to do their work during daylight hours. But a small group of nocturnal scholars believed that nighttime study increased intellectual capacities, and they wrote extensively on the subject. Historians still debate whether this night owl mindset actually led to an increase in intellectual achievements, or if it was just an academic fad. So, while working nights can be rough on your body, it might actually give your mind an interesting edge. You're constantly adapting to changes, and that's a skill that pays off, especially when you're faced with unexpected challenges. Wind-down rituals, preparing your body for rest. All right, the night shift is over. You've survived, and now it's time to wind down and prepare your body for much-needed rest. But here's the thing. You can't just jump into bed and expect to fall asleep instantly. Your body needs a little time to transition from alert mode to sleep mode. Let's look at this from a historical perspective. In ancient cultures, like those in Greece and Rome, people had rituals to help them unwind at the end of the day. Whether it was a warm bath, a glass of wine, or simply meditating, these practices helped signal to the body that it was time to rest. Historians still debate whether these ancient rituals were more effective than today's modern wind-down methods, or if they were just cultural habits designed to help people forget about the stress of the day. But regardless of history, it's clear that having a wind-down routine is key. Your body has been in high gear all night, so you need to slow it down. Consider dimming the lights, turning off screens, and perhaps listening to calming music, or even an audiobook. It's about creating an environment that says to your body, okay, it's time to relax now. A little known fact. Did you know that taking a warm shower or bath before bed can actually lower your body temperature? This might sound counterintuitive, but when your body cools down after the heat, it triggers a natural sleep response. Historians still argue about the best methods of preparing for sleep throughout time, but this trick, whether from ancient or modern wisdom, is worth trying. Now, here's where I leave you. Your shift's over, and it's time to let go. You've done your part. You've powered through the night, and now you get to rest. Let your mind wander as you drift into sleep, knowing that you've taken care of yourself in ways that many overlook. You deserve this rest. Wind down. Closing thoughts. As the night slowly fades away and you drift into your rest, remember that your journey through the night shift world is one of resilience. You've learned to adapt, adjust, and, yes, even thrive in a world that demands so much from you. Just like the ancient civilizations that powered through their own challenges, you too have proven that you can endure. The world may sleep while you're up working, but you're not alone in your struggle. Whether it's sleep, food, exercise, or stress management, each little piece plays its part in ensuring that you stay healthy, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So, as you finally slip into a comfortable slumber, know that you've got this. You've survived another night, and tomorrow, well, tomorrow will be another victory. Now, let yourself go. Let the soft hum of the world outside carry you into your dreams, where the only shift you need to worry about is the one you make in your sleep. Sleep tight, sweet dreams.